Hello, everyone. This is the Tinkerbell contributor meeting. It's a bi-weekly meeting, and today is June 8th, 2021. And we are here with a couple of topics to discuss. The first one is moving Slack to the CNCF. In the meantime, if you want to add more on the agenda, I'm gonna share it here on the Zoom chat, and you can also add your name as attendees for the record. This meeting is recorded, and we follow the CNCF code of conduct, so be nice with each other is a great way to start. So the first discussion is moving Slack to the CNCF. I think Mark.
I put this one on there.
Mark, okay.
So there's been conversation that's been happening that we wanted to make sure, we being the internal Tinkerbell team to Equinix, we want to make sure that the community was involved in the conversation of moving the Tinkerbell community to the CNCF channel Slack for Tinkerbell. And the reason that is it gives us a more centered focus on just Tinkerbell within the CNCF as it stands as a project, but also to sort of take away from the customer talk that happens in the Equinix Tinkerbell open source channel for the customer pieces of that don't really apply to the open source project. So what we wanted to do was just basically start a discussion, maybe create an issue or a GitHub discussion, and just start to get people's feedback on what they think about that. That was that.
Do you have an issue to link, or it's something you didn't?
No, I'm going to open an issue. What I wanted to just do is, for the meeting purposes, go on record to say that we want to have this discussion within the community, and I will follow up with an issue, and also I'll open a discussion. But what we would like to do, what I would like to get out of it, is to make sure that we're keeping up with the discussion and that we're actioning things in a timely manner. So not just open up the discussion and then let it sit there for a couple months, to actually, put a timetable on it.
Yeah, I think we need to. So just for the record, you want to, like, the channel we can move, the one that is in the Equinix Metal community, over to the CNCF one, because I think there are projects who has their own Slack, or that they have different solution. Probably only Containerd and Prometheus kind of use the CNCF as a land for their Slack community.
Yeah,
other projects have their own one. So the proposal is to deprecate the one, the Equinix Metal community, in favor of the CNCF Slack. That's
correct.
Okay, sounds good.
And if need be, I can open a proposal. I'm not sure what the actual process is, so I can open an issue. I can also open a GitHub discussion, and I can write up a proposal to do it, whichever works. I just want to make sure that I'm following the process, and that the community is involved with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to do it properly. I presume that we have to speak with Jacob, that is the person who kind of holds the Equinix Metal community account, and see if, I think it's a more strategic and broad conversation. But I don't really know. I think if you want to start with an issue just to raise it.
Yeah, that's what I think would be the easiest way. And then, so for those that are on the call or maybe listening to this recording at a later time, when we're referring to Jacob, there is a person that works at Equinix Metal that handles sort of the administration / ownership of the Tinkerbell community Slack. So that conversation most likely won't happen in public, but I will give a TLDR in the issue of that conversation, just so it's transparent and everybody's aware of what took place.
Yeah, I just want to avoid community fragmentation too much. So has other projects have their own Slack? It's more than fine to have the one we have today, or change it if we want to, if it makes people feel more open. That's better. I don't personally have opinions there.
Yeah, I think it's just as long as we're doing it in an open manner, so everybody can give their input and know that they have the ability to affect that decision. They have the opportunity to affect that decision. Jacob, what were you going to say?
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to add, for Equinix Metal employees in that Slack channel that we have now, they've asked us, right, to identify ourselves as like Metal employees. I would love to go to the CNCF so that I can just be a community member instead of, you know, a representative of Equinix here. Because when I come to these meetings, I am just a community member. I'm not driving, you know, any specific Equinix Metal stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I think it's better, because I can speak for myself saying I'm a contributor. And if I weren't working at Equinix Metal, I would still continue to contribute to this project. So the action items for this will be, I will create an issue. I will also reach out to not Jacob Weinstock, but the Jacob that is the administrator / owner of this, and I will put a TLDR in the issue of that conversation.
Yeah, I know that Mark Coleman also, this is the director of developer relationship at Equinix Metal, wrote a bunch of times on the about this topic on the CNCF Tinkerbell Slack, because he also probably has opinions. So if you could just reach out to him as well, because it would be good.
I actually had a conversation with him this morning in regards to that, and he might be joining, but shortly. But what I'll also do is I'd like to put, and I'm going to call it an artificial timetable on this, and say that we'll leave this open for 30 days and then we'll look for status. But I will continually bring it up in the next community meeting before we close it out. And then I think it would be good that we followed up by kind of with a blog post or something as to, you know, what was done. So there's a historical record, not only of the GitHub issue, but of why it was done, who was involved in making that vote, and so forth and so on. I think it's good from a transparency standpoint.
Sure. Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marky, for taking care of this. And I think the next one is Jacob with the full branch. I saw the proposal, so that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a GitHub issue in the PB&J repo. The idea was to kind of use PB&J as a trial and error since it's our least used repo out there. But so the idea is that GitHub already handles a lot of the niceties when we change our default branch. We just would have to have like a PR staged that once you go from master to main, then you merge this PR in. That would change your CI and stuff to get it working. So yeah, I put an issue with like an announcement in PB&J, and then I wanted to see about like timeline, and then who has the permissions to actually help me do this change.
I have the permission, so we can do it together.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I read the proposal. I will have a look again at the issue, and if when you feel ready and you want to make the actual change, just let me know and we'll do it straight away. Or we can see how how it is back. I already did that for other repositories, but it's just a few clicks away from my side. I don't really know the consequences of on the repositories, but I saw that you wrote a few of them on the issue, so I think we just need to click the button at this point.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Appreciate it. And
also for the other people who kind of are working on other repositories, if you are this is an announcement from me if you're doing the same as Jacob is doing for other repositories, and you want the my finger, let me know. I can do it for other repositories as well. So but as Jacob pointed out, it would be great to use PB&J as a test and see how it goes first. But biggest repositories did that, so I'm not really concerned. We can fix whatever we can. Just a matter of doing it. Anything else?
Nope, not for that.
So the next topic, we have a couple of topics from you, Jacob. So I think you can just go over the list. We have the proposal for updates of community meetings, and so there is a link there.
Yeah, if I can share my screen, if that's all right.
Yeah, I think you have the rights, or maybe not. Let me see.
Yeah, it looks like I can. If I can find the browser window. There we go.
Oh, some tabs, you tab hoarder.
Oh boy. Okay, so let me do this. Here's the like Marky said earlier about some of these things. I don't know where they went, so I created a proposal. I don't know if that's the right spot, but and then also I'm going to talk about it here. But this is the content of it. There's a few different items that I wanted to talk about. I think I might start down here. We've talked about triage party before. I just want to bring it up again. I think it's something that we should do. We should schedule it. We should make it official. Like I would love to have it be like maybe on the off weeks or something, or I don't know, start once a month, something, because if you look at our repos and you look at the amount of issues and PRs and how long they've been out there, it makes me feel bad to see all that when people contribute and they just sit and nothing happens. I would love to be able to use Triage Party to really help move that process along. I know Marcus, I don't see him on the call. I know he had, oh, there he is. You had talked about looking into that. Is that something that you found up and running or viable or?
Yeah, I linked it in the chat. It's an instance running on a K8s cluster I have somewhere, a config map I shared with Strom, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Thomas Stromberg.
Yeah. So he had pushed an updated version, a 1.4.0 version of that in time for the last meeting, I think. And so I've updated to that instance. That said, I think that if we could move it to the Tinkerbell org domain, it's really just a config map and it's a pretty lightweight pod.
Okay.
I think we have infra repo now, so we should reach out to David to help us with that. But yeah, we can move it. And I don't know if somebody wants to take ownership of running the triage, or how do we want to schedule that or make it happen. Or if we want to make it live as a here or somewhere else or asynchronously, not really sure how it should work.
In the past, what we used to do is have owners per repo. So I think Graham was taking ownership for Tink, and others were like, I and Kelly were leading Hegel at that point. But that was just past. So if we can improvise on that, obviously.
I'd propose maybe we schedule a time, like a different meeting time. I don't know, maybe on the off weeks or once a month, just to get started. Just schedule a meeting where we can go over it and then, try it, think about different, organizational strategies, if people are going to have owners, etc. But I would love for us just to get a meeting on the books that said like, okay, let's do it. Because if you look at this page, 41.8 days is the average wait. I'm kind of embarrassed to see that.
I will say that that's not good. However, if you go to some of the other open source projects within the CNCF ecosystem, that's not horrible. So
oh, good.
If there's a silver lining, it's not the worst I've seen.
Nice.
Yeah, there is a way to make it faster. We can close all the issues in Purecast, but it won't be a good solution. So, I mean, as Marky pointed out, you have to compare the numbers with other projects to know, but I don't have that comparison in my mind, so I don't really know if it's good or bad. But an alternative can be to close them all. That sounds not that great, even. So, yeah. What's left on the proposal that you want to highlight other than triage party? Because I think it wasn't related to that only.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe one last thing. Can I propose next Tuesday at the same time to do a triage party meeting? Is that, how do people feel about that?
Want to host it? I never used triage party. I have no idea what it is all about.
Neither have I. I'm willing to, whatever run it means. I'm willing to do that just to get us started. I'm sure there's other people in the community, and since Thomas, the author, is my boss, I will wrangle him to come and meet and help us.
That
I
sounds
could
great.
be
Yeah.
a co-producer because I'm very familiar with this tool.
Awesome.
We use
Thank
it.
you.
The Kubernetes release team now uses Triage Party.
That sounds
And I'll be
great.
there to bring the old experience that we had.
Great.
I think
Looks
So
like
just
we got
next,
looks like we got ourselves a party next Tuesday.
yeah, we
Oh
did.
yeah.
Great. So yeah, I will. Can somebody have that as an action item? I will create the event and share it with the community. So
okay. Do you want me to do some of the other items?
yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to propose a couple items that we add to this bi-weekly meeting. A section to talk about what people are working on, like and with Tinkerbell, and maybe some sharing of success stories. I thought might be nice to kind of make the meeting a little more personal and interactions, and get to know people and what they're doing might be kind of a fun option. Just a proposal though.
I think it's a
Okay.
great idea. One of the things that I would love to do, and I see that it's on here, home labs. I think that would be awesome. I will say that I've recently started building a Tinkerbell home lab. And one of the awesome parts about that is, Gianluca, I found your old blog about your home lab, and I followed that to a T, and it was beautiful. And I bet that there are other people in the community that would seriously benefit from just seeing how we do that. I will be the first to volunteer.
That's great. Do we want to? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Marky, I'd love to talk with you more about that, whether that be in the form of content or also maybe developing a series of reference designs for folks who want to try things at home.
Oh, I will totally reach out to you, Jeremy. That was Jeremy, right?
Yep, that was me.
Cool. I will totally reach out to you.
When I see this proposal, it sounds like appealing to me to split the meetings agenda as it is today to now it has a topic that is like everything and nothing. It is really generic. Do we want to add more points that are strictly on the topic? Like we can add one for what are people working, what are you working on, and we have a share success, and we have a topics that is like others, like if whatever doesn't fit gets to others. So do you think this will help the community to share more broadly what they're doing? I mean, you don't want to see, Marky, where my home lab is today because it's in a box, so closed in a box. So
Well, I think what Jacob is proposing here, I really, really like, because I think it brings sort of the fun parts to the community. And people, I think it's fun for people to see, maybe not, but I think it is. But I think maybe what we could do is, even if we just did like once a month where we tried something new, okay, we'll do home labs and just kind of see what people think about it.
yeah, I'm just thinking operationally. I mean, how do you do it? It's just a note on the agenda that changed monthly, and okay, that sounds easy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. And thank you for proposing that, Jacob.
Oh, sure. There's a lot of ideas. I'm not expecting all of them. I think it's a good idea maybe to start slow, see what gains traction, see what the community actually likes. I threw out just kind of a lot of them just to kind of get people's thought process about it going. So.
Great. Yeah, I mean, the best way to make proposals to move faster than what they do today, that they are not moving, is to make noise, not only from the authors, but also from us. So obviously, if a proposal stays silent, it's kind of hard to figure out if it's a good or bad. I think I don't remember. I think in the proposal we merged about how to write proposal. There is a TTL, so if nobody answers, it's accepted. We kind of never applied that, but if we want, we can just do it and approve all the proposals that are there. Not speaking about this one, but more in general about why I think proposals are kind of stale there. But yeah, I like this one, and I will, we can change the meeting agenda and have, I like what Gaurav proposed, like shows and tell. Maybe we can keep it for these months just because it's a bit more general and people can just show and tell whatever is Tinkerbell related. Doesn't need to be a success or a failure, or a home lab, and see how deeper we can go. Because yeah, it's good to be general.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if somebody wants to add that to the agenda, let's make it done. And if you have ideas on the proposal themselves, just write it there. But for me, it's like approved and merged, so you can change status, and we can. Okay, we need more excitement on these meetings, because otherwise it's just me rambling and you sharing proposals.
Yeah, that's fair.
So the next one is new Think Worker. No, yeah.
Yeah. So
Thinklet.
I created. I started to look at Think Worker because I wanted to add things like different container runtimes, and I wanted to mess with like multiple auth for different multiple registries and things like that. And unfortunately, I found the code base a bit too complicated and fragile. Like I didn't feel like I could change stuff without knowing if it worked or not. And I didn't want to break the entire thing. So after some deep reflection, I decided to write my own. I didn't do this just willy-nilly. I dove as deep as I could in the code base to really try and understand what's going on and see if I could do it. And I didn't feel comfortable. So I wrote my own. I called it the Tinklet, kind of following the Kubernetes ideas here. It's still a work in progress, excuse me, but it can run. I have two different backends right now, so it can run Docker containers and it can run Kubernetes pods. And I did want to do a short, quick little demo, if that's all right.
Yeah, like it.
Sure.
Like the name.
Sure.
I was about to ask that.
Let's see right here. Can y'all see these terminals here?
Yes.
So I've got 3 terminals, and let me just get these big real quick. Okay, so the top one, this is my Tink server, right? You can see I don't have any workflows in there at the moment. This middle one here is the Tinklet itself, so I'm just going to run it. I'm going to use the Kubernetes backends. It can run out of cluster or in cluster. I'll show both of those. This is the out of cluster, so you have Tinklet running, and it's going to use a kubeconfig and just talk to a Kubernetes cluster. And then the next one I'll show is where you actually run the Tinklet inside of the cluster, and it also creates pods inside of there as well. So down here, we're just going to run a Kubernetes command kind of to watch what's going on. Before I do that, I have this is the leftover from my tilt. Sorry, let me remove this real quick so it's a little bit cleaner here. Looks like it had a job queued up somewhere. Again, work in progress. Okay, so I don't have a workflow. Let me create a workflow. We'll move some of these along. Okay, that looks better, right? So there's nothing in there. The controllers, the Tinklet started, it's running. We'll create a workflow here. This is just a hello world one. It just sits in, sleeps for a little bit. But this is something that could be useful for lots of different things that you want to run outside of the actual worker that's running, right? If you wanted to do maybe out of band calls or calls some kind of a webhook endpoint or whatever, right? So we created a workflow. You can see some logs. It ran the pod. It actually created it, right? It terminated it, and we can do real quick and just check the workflow status. And see it was successful. So yeah, there's the super basic one of that. You had 2 actions that ran. So we'll remove that real quick, and then I'll do the in cluster one. It's got a tilt file in there. So if you're familiar with tilt, you can just tilt up and it'll build and deploy the image for you. You'll see a namespace shortly show up where we do actually deploy the Tinklet. We're running in the Kubernetes mode. It's going to look in cluster and find all its configs it needs to actually create it, right? So here it's got its namespace was created. It's actually running itself. Now we can create another workflow. And there you go. Here are the pods that got created. It's running again. We could do our workflow events last time. Oh, it's a sleep. Okay, there you go. And it completed. And then it deleted it. Right. So that pod's gone. This is the Tinklet itself, but the namespace, the pod, all that related to the actual action is all deleted. So yeah, anyways, there's a repo out there. Like I said, still work in progress. I think it'd be one of the interesting use cases that'd be really cool is with Hook. We could write a containerd backend, and then you don't even need to deploy Docker inside of Hook, right? You don't need that extra layer. You can just use the Tinklet with the containerd backend and get rid of the Docker stuff in there. One interesting idea. So yeah, that was it for Tinklet.
Questions? I have one.
Yeah.
No, thank you for showing us that. ThinkWorker and Tinklet runs on each provisionable. I'm wondering what's the relation between Kubernetes and the ThinkWorker, because they look like similar. So how do you decide where to schedule pods?
So ideally for me, right, regardless, you're going to have a ThinkWorker that runs on the bare metal machine that you're going to provision, right? The Kubernetes ThinkWorker in Kubernetes here is of no value, right? You still need one that runs on that machine. But if you have other processes or other actions that you want to run outside of it, so Equinix Metal is one of them, for example, where we want to run things outside. So we want to make BMC calls maybe, or we have things that need to run to talk to different services where there's different network access. You can have this long running ThinkWorker that just lives there, and you can send it workflows, and it'll go do it before you run maybe your bare metal workflow that does stuff, right? So you could do BMC resets, you could do webhooks, right, to talk to things, to different services, to say status reports or whatever, right? You could run a logging endpoint, right? Like right now we send via syslog a whole bunch of logs over to boots, right? That's not the best idea in my mind, right? You could theoretically run your own syslog and send it to your own place, right? It just adds a little bit more flexibility in that aspect.
Okay.
See the wheels turning.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, because it looks like we are piling orchestrators and scheduler, but and the interaction between them it's hard to visualize. But yeah, I don't want
That's
to.
fair.
I don't want to. I think the idea to rewrite the ThinkWorker is the best one, because we definitely need it. I'm wondering if you can extract the interface that you had to implement to be to interact when you interact with the Think server, because having that interface defined sounds like a super variable documentation, piece of documentation to say this is what you should do to have your own worker.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really valuable. There was some of the learnings I had by building this Tinklet was that the server side needs some updating to make that a cleaner interface. But yeah,
Okay.
there is some general things you have to understand and do. But yeah, I'll take an action item on myself to do something like that.
That sounds, if we can document a clear interface and make the coding change the Tink server needs, that sounds like a good, abstraction that we should document and highlight. That's cool.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other
And
questions?
then I got, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead. Any other questions? Okay. My last item is governance model. I created a discussion in the Tink repo. Do we have a documented governance model already? Maybe I just couldn't find it.
We should have one. Where it is, I mean, we, as a member of the CNCF, we follow the open governance model. That is like that. Oh, it's a website somewhere. But I think we have it somewhere, but probably not, because I can find it. So yeah, I have to refresh my mind around it. What with governance, what do you mean?
Generally, with governance models, they follow, what our decision-making process is, what our charter is, what our mission is. And then another thing that the governance model follows, which is my next topic, and I'll say it, is like SLOs and SLIs, things like that are documented for the community. In Jacob's discussion, I added 2 links to 2 communities that I'm a part of, Kubernetes one, Jenkins the other, in what their governance model is, and they also follow the open governance model. But this is just what usually happens, and I do believe for CNCF graduation, you have to have a public governance model. I understand, know that's how we did it for Falco. So we should start thinking about what that's supposed to look like, and definitely get that. I don't think we need it to move from sandbox to incubation phase in the CNCF, but we will need it for graduation for sure. So the sooner we get it done, the better.
Yeah, I was asking because, I mean, in terms of decision making, the proposal workflows can be improved, but it was an attempt to have a way to take decisions. On the .github repository, there are like metadata files. One is called owners, that explains like the ownership model, and we know that we tried to get maintainers for each repos, but it never worked out. So that's why we don't have maintainers clearly stated out. So yeah, and as I say, the open governance is what we have because we are part of CNCF. Probably we just need to apply it better.
Yeah, I think all the artifacts for what we have for following the open governance model reside in various locations. When you start a governance model, and those 2 links that I put in that discussion will show you what the defined end goal of the governance model looks like. The idea is to make contributors or people that are coming to the community be able to read what our governance is in one location and not have to search around for the various artifacts.
Yeah, for me, one of the things that brought this to light was the repo change, the branch change, right? I have a maintainer label on my name, and I inherited it because I hired into Equinix on a team that was doing a lot of this maintenance, but that's not known to anybody. I found that out internally, right? So part of it was I would prefer if that was an open document that described how that happened. So if that's what we're doing, regardless of whether it's the way we want to do it in the long run, I think we should just very clearly define that. Like, there is an internal team and they become maintainers and they have certain permissions, et cetera, right? And then the other part was like, well, who has permissions to do what? I have a maintainer tag on my name, but I can't change the default branch. I can merge PRs, I can do things like that. So is there a different level that allows people to have like admin over the repos? Like, all of that is fine the way it is. So my biggest concern is that we just need to make that open, right? We just need to document what is the existing way we're doing it. Here it is. And then from there, right, we can think about improving it and whatnot. But I think the first step would be awesome to just document. This is what it is, right? Internal folk gets, they get elevated access to these repos. So yeah, that's kind of why I brought it up.
I think with that, as we move more with the governance model, as well as moving more towards graduation, obviously we have to get the incubation. We'll start to see ourselves refining a lot of these processes and creating sort of community ladders that will, allow people to join the organization for Tinkerbell as a contributor. Allow people, much like Kubernetes has the, reviewer and approver status, we'll start to see something mimic very much the same here.
What I'm gonna review those documents, but if you want to help me, I think the .github repository is the place where we kind of tried to consolidate. There is an ownership file, there is a contributor MD file and a bunch of other stuff there that we need for sure to refresh and see how they apply, if they still apply, because a lot of when we wrote them, a lot were, the community and the project were like 1 year older, so definitely some of the content was like a want to become, and maybe it didn't work, or something is achieved and we can consolidate, or something has to change. But I think my feeling is that the .github repository is kind of the place where we work on something like that, and we can iterate on what's there. But I'm the first one who has to refresh the contents and read them again. So
I didn't even know this repo existed. This is
and it does look like it might need to be updated. I know there's more people, so I think it's definitely something we should look at.
Yeah, there is, like last year I was a heavy writer, so we wrote much of that, but now I don't remember it anymore, so I have to look at it again. But if you want to help me, have a read and iterate on it together, because that's probably where the brain dump started last year, about governance and ownership and community and contributors. So yeah.
That's cool. That'd be nice to get. We should, maybe I'll throw this out there. We should put a link in tinkerbell.org to this stuff too, so that it's available. In what if we're going to use tinkerbell.org kind of as the funnel where we get people in, that would be a nice place, right, where all this is documented and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'm just gonna place the link if no one did it. Just taking notes and leaving links. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have a look at it and see what it says, because I don't remember. So Marky, I think you have the last 2 discussions item.
I do. Yeah, I do, and I have to drop in 5 minutes for another meeting, so I'll move kind of quickly. And part of that governance model is defining kind of what SLOs and SLIs are for various services within Tinkerbell. And internally, we have already started doing that process. I think it would be a good thing to make the findings from that public and maybe adopt them into the Tinkerbell project. And that's just basically like saying, here's, this particular endpoint should respond within this amount of time. That's your SLI and things like that. So when people are using this project and maybe decide to use this in production they will have sort of the same metrics that we are using internally. And it gives people a lot of comfort to know that that's something that we're thinking about. So that was that. I'm going to be meeting, I met with Mark Holman about this, and I'm going to be meeting with Dan. And I think I'm going to set up something with you, Gianluca, maybe next week. Those obviously will be meetings that won't take place in public. However, the outcomes of those or the notes from those meetings will be made public in the next community meeting. So everybody's aware and we're not doing anything in secret. So that was that for the SLOs and SLIs. The next one, does anybody have any questions? Gianluca.
Just one. No, I have a pointer. The documentation has a page for each services. So if we want to start the easy way, just add an SLO chapter there with a breakdown.
That's too easy. That makes it super easy. Thank you for bringing that up, Gianluca.
I will write it in the meantime. You explain the next point.
The next one. So as a sandbox project within the CNCF, we have been asked to participate in a security audit. Now, for those that are not aware, in order to graduate, and you keep hearing me use the word graduation, in the CNCF, there's sort of phases in a life cycle of a project. There's the sandbox, incubation, and then graduation. In order to graduate, you have to go through a mandatory security audit. Well, the CNCF is actually now doing these sort of like pre-audits where it's optional, and going through one of those helps prepare you for a lot of the things that you will face when you're going through the graduation security audit. So back about 2 months ago, maybe a little bit more, 3, we had a meeting with the CNCF to talk about this. And what I would like to do is I'd like to open an issue regarding the CNCF security audit. I will definitely take the lead on it if that helps, but I'd like to, what I wanted to do was just make it sort of known to the public that we will be doing a security audit. The idea is to make the findings from that security audit public, obviously within reason. We don't want to let the flaring things out there. Not that there are any, but just being safe. But I just wanted to make sure that that was reported from a historical reference point that we are going to do that and then make the artifact public to the community.
And Marky, is it ongoing? So there is a company doing the auditing right now on.
So that's the thing. The security audit will not be done by an external company for this one. This is one where the CNCF has drafted guidelines for what you would do. So us as maintainers would do the audit ourselves and basically check these various boxes. And then, we'll obviously have things that we'll want to work on to fix. And that will be a team effort. When we go through the graduation security audit, that is through a third-party company. And those findings are made public. Once I believe if I recall the process from doing it with Jenkins and Falco, it's the findings are made public after remediation.
Great, thank you for sharing this.
That is all for me. Thank you for giving me the time. I am going to drop. Have a good day and evening, everybody.
Thank you, Marky. So I think we reached the end of the topics for today. Any last points to share or anything else? Otherwise, thank you for joining. And if you want to help us and contribute, code is important, but also going on over the proposals and all the links in the action items is crucial, even more than code. So yeah, have a look there, and I'm gonna close the meeting in 3, 2, 1. Thank you. It was nice to have you all around. Have a good week. Bye.
Yeah.